Welcome back to Tailosive Tech, everybody. Today we're unboxing something that's not going to be very surprising. I don't think there's a bunch of people dying to see what this looks like because we've kind of seen it before, but I consider we haven't really unboxed something in a while that was made by Apple. And my other point is it's been a very long time since we've unboxed an iPad. In fact, since I got my iPad Pro, which was back in 2015, I didn't even do this kind of dual camera setup before. So here it is. We got the 2017 Space Gray iPad that is budget friendly. That is its main feature, not really the hardware, which is a lot of steps backwards in certain aspects, but iPad sales are not doing too well. This is Apple's move to try to get more iPads out there. And that kind of brings me to my other point as to why I think this iPad was smart. Apple is not necessarily known for their really functional hardware. They're kind of known for their hardware being pretty. Let's get this plastic off here. But I think the main reason people don't switch to Samsung and other competitors that may have better specs or more features is because Apple has that special in-house designed operating system known as iOS for this iPad, and that's what they're trying to appeal to. People can pay a little amount of money and get all the great features iOS 10 has to offer in a very budget-friendly iPad. So let's take a look here. Slip this cover off, man. They got it tight this time. Voila! Again, not too surprising. It's a pretty familiar footprint, but this is actually a unique design, as in, yes, you can physically see differences between this and a regular iPad Air, which is what it looks the most like. Not the iPad Air 2, so let's lift this out of here. Okay, so we got some decent weight here. That's feeling like a premium tablet, as any iPad does when you get it. And okay, so this camera does look a little bit different here. And no, I don't just have the iPad Air 1 memorized in my brain. We've got one right here. This is the original iPad Air 1. That is a bit thicker than the Air 2, which unfortunately I don't have for you, but just imagine this a little thinner. So this Air 1 has been in use since the Air came out. We bought this one the day after it launched, I believe. You can see here on the camera we have a little ring around it, and since this is a much better camera than this one, we have that solid iPad Air 2 look with the flush lens. And also keep in mind that with the Air 1 you have 2 rows of dots on the bottom here for each of your speakers. Well, with the 2017 iPad we have 1 row of speakers, more like the Air 2, even though these are about the same thickness. Very similar, but minute differences. Another noticeable difference is the silencer switch on the side here. They removed that on the 2017 iPad. You don't have that here. Volume rockers actually sit a little higher, and they have that ridge between them like you do on your iPhone 6, whereas there's no ridge on the Air 1. So, also, fingerprint reader, of course, not on the Air 1, but on this guy. There are ways you can physically tell that this is a new iPad, but again, it's all things we've seen before. So, let's get the plastic off. Let's get some good smell out of it. Ooh, it has that maple syrup scent. I keep smelling that when I unbox. I believe I've said that before, but let's get the plastic off here. Ooh, that's a premium tablet that did not cost much. Now, I understand there are other tablets out there, especially other iPads, with much better specs, much better features, but this isn't your, like, $50 Amazon tablet, okay? $330 for a fairly premium feel. This feels solid, and people say it's heavier than the Air 1. It may be, but you'd have to put them on a scale and notice differences, because holding them, these feel exactly the same. I'm glad Apple decided not to call this the iPad Air 3, though, because you really shouldn't make an iPad that's thicker than the Air 2 and heavier than the Air 1 and call it an Air model. So it makes sense that they just kind of ditched that name. Okay, cool. And we got the A9 processor powering this guy. Let me go ahead and boot him up here. And the other thing a lot of people were upset about was the non-laminated display, which means that there's actually distance between the glass and the LCD screen, which they removed with the Air 2 and they've not been doing on other iPads for a while. Oh, okay, we got the screen. But I can tell you, like, I'm sure viewing angles, if we compared them to a better iPad, like the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which looks enormous right now. Yes, you can tell with this iPad Pro that the glass and LCD are seamless right next to each other, whereas if you look at something like this, you can actually see the little bezel on the inside that's actually means the LCD is lower than the glass. But honestly, you have to look for that. Putting them next to each other like this, I'm not really seeing a incredibly obvious difference in display quality. It's still very bright, it's still very, vibrant, and I can see just fine. And of course, it's still a Retina display, so you can't even see the pixels on it. The display may not be as good, but Apple really stripped down the premium features that make the iPad really, really cool, but also really, really expensive. So here they said, no, let's just focus on what people care about. So we're gonna take a few minutes to activate the iPad here. And yeah, comparing it to this guy, you want to talk about the 2017 iPad being heavy. Look at this thing. I think my Pro is actually slightly thinner, right? Yeah, it looks a little thinner. It's like about as thin as the iPad Air 2. I'm sure this is a little thicker, but yeah, I gotta say, this doesn't feel cheap to me in any way. Gonna agree to our terms and conditions here. It's telling us that Siri exists. Thank you. And we are booted up. There's our premium $330 iPad right there. This has a very solid build to it. I'm liking it. I understand that the display is not as premium. If we put it next to the Air 1 here, just out of curiosity, I'm gonna turn the brightness all the way up and see if there's any noticeable difference. Okay. You know, at a first glance, this display looks a little brighter. If you can look up the tech specs, you probably already know this. So no, I wouldn't exactly say this is an exact replica of the iPad Air. A lot of people seem to say that. The 2017 iPad, while it looks very similar, I give you that, it really has some distinct advantages. Now let me put this next to the 12.9-inch massive iPad, which does feel enormous right now. Turn this display all the way up, and yes, you can tell that colors, the brightness are a little bit better on the 12.9-inch, but for people who have not upgraded their iPad in a long time, or maybe never owned an iPad, the only way you'll be able to notice that this display is inferior is if you have the Pro model right next to it, which a lot of people don't. A lot of people will just be unboxing this, and this will be their iPad. I don't think people care that this is thicker than the Air 2. The Air 2 was plenty thin, and so is this guy. Of course, I'm curious about the camera being pretty good. Yeah, this looks nice. I mean, before I had my iPad Pro, I was using an Air 1 as well. I can tell you that this camera is instantly better because it has live photos at HDR mode. Maybe it's just that the screen is smaller, but yeah, I don't think this is a sucky iPad at all. So I'm gonna be reviewing this tablet, and because I have so many friends that are actually buying this one, I'll be using a gold one to review. This is not mine. This is another friend's who let me unbox it for this video, thankfully, and I'm gonna be helping them set it up. But yeah, there's still plenty to discuss here. As you know, before we could not do things like this on that iPad Air 1, you know, split view, which is neat on such a affordable device. So, do you want me to go through the rest of the box? We just got like a lightning charger and a little outlet. There, ooh, a mystery. Stickers in here. Great, okay, we figured it out. What do you think of the 2017 iPad? Are you on a budget? This is probably a good tablet for you. I'd like to see a competitor offer something $330 in this good of a package. And hey, just for kicks, while we've got so many iPads at the table, here is the original iPad, the one Steve Jobs introduced himself. Still 9.7 inches, but dang, look at those bezels. Yeah, not even iOS 6. So it's been 7 years of iPad, and I can say a lot hasn't changed, and yet a lot has. Remember this guy? It doesn't even have a camera. How did we live back then? I don't know. Anyway, let's hope 2017 is a comeback year for the iPad. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.